Welcome to today's webinar that we are thrilled to co-present with the IDSA and to have you meet the winners of the Boast Your Toast Ecodesign Challenge to reinvent the toaster. And we're really thrilled to have with us today the winners of the challenge so that you can hear in their own words their experience of taking the challenge and what they learned from that process to bring forward into their professional practice careers. So today we're going to tell you a little bit about Sustainable Minds, and I'm Terry Swack, the CEO and founder. I'll give you a quick snapshot about Sustainable Minds and why we co-sponsored this challenge. Then I'll turn it over to Stefan, who will tell you about his role in the IDSA and why he put this design challenge together, as well as the Sustainability Deep Dive Conference. He'll then turn it over to Shruti, who managed the competition, the challenge process, and she and I worked closely together to pull it off. And you'll hear briefly from, Manuela Toro, an LCA analyst here at Sustainable Minds who participated in the judging process to actually check every participant's model to make sure the modeling process was done accurately and the results representative, so that was factored into the judging process. And then we'll go through each of the winners' presentations so that you can see what they presented in the competition and what the judges saw as well to make the decision about who won and the relative order they won in. Real quick statement about Sustainable Minds. When I started the company, our mission was to, and still is to operationalize environmental performance into mainstream product development and manufacturing to drive revenue and growth through greener product innovation. So that's a mouthful, but the whole idea is that you have to teach people to think differently, and then you have to give them tools that make it easy for them to take action. So thinking differently meant thinking from a whole life cycle perspective, from raw material acquisition through end of life, and equipping people with a framework for how to analyze environmental impacts and to employ strategies to turn those impacts around or to mitigate or eliminate or innovate, and then give them tools to measure to see if thinking differently actually is making a difference. You can't just think differently and not measure, because then you're going to have all of these assumptions that are unvalidated. And I think you might even hear from a couple of the winners how measuring actually did show them that their assumptions of what must be greener, wasn't. But you can't just measure. You can't just do LCAs without thinking differently, because then you're only going to get incremental improvement. And so over the years here at Sustainable Minds, we've developed processes which we deliver in training into industry and education to think differently and then measure. And then most importantly, if it's going to be integrated into manufacturing organizations or the design consultancies processes, it has to be repeatable. It has to be reliable, and it has to be scalable. People need to be able to participate. And so when we put this challenge together, not only did we want to provide our software that helps people think differently and then measure, but the final presentation, which is what you're going to see today, is critical to telling the story about how environmental performance can be an innovation driver, but how it's a component of the entire story, not in and of itself the entire story. So from start to finish, this process enables people to think differently, to drive new product innovation, measure to be able to compare results and competing concepts, and then to be able to tell the story about how the environmental performance is important or less important in the overall context of the story, but to show that exploration so that it's meaningful and you're choosing the results for the right reasons when you're making trade-off decisions about actually what to make. This is really important, and again, we were thrilled to put the challenge together with the IDSA and Stefan because of IDSA and Stefan's commitment to drive sustainability into professional practice in the industrial design industry. So Stefan, why don't you take it away and tell us about the work that you've been doing there.
Thank you, Terry. So welcome everyone. My name is Stefan Klambaneva. I consider myself a design hybrid. So hybrid systems thinking, designer, creator, ideator, inventor. I use the Greek letter pi to describe the shape, and so as opposed to the T-shaped designer that IDEO model created. And I talk about being a design value evangelist. I was elected and has served on the board of Industrial Designers Society of America for the last 10 years. And I have had a couple different roles throughout the years. And I was elected this January to lead up and reinvigorate the special interest sections for Industrial Designers Society of America. And one of those happens to be focusing on eco-design. And you know, I want to evangelize on the strategic value of design and sustainability. And you know, I think that that's something that we need to really support. And actually, that's what kind of gets us going into developing the inaugural Sustainability Deep Dive Conference this past June. So if we go to the next slide, I'll kind of tell you a little bit more about the conference itself. So if you know, basically, if you look back to the situation that we've been living the last couple of months, you know, we've all been stuck at home to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. It had me thinking of the 2008 New York Times essay by Michael Cannon that says, "Design Loves a Depression." And following the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, planet Earth, something has also been on my mind. So this global pandemic has had us urging us to define what designers need to do for sustainability and climate change. So having the pulpit with IDSA to do that, we wanted to really push that focus. You know, many articles argue about how interconnected these crises are, and even that climate change is just a slow-moving pandemic. So if we look at the actual conference itself, Jason Belair and I first sat down more than a year ago to discuss how we can bring this sort of event to fruition. And I told him this has been on my bucket list since around 2010, which is probably around, maybe even earlier, when Terry and I first met. So I remember distinctly sitting down and saying, you know, we have to talk about strategy, we have to talk about the sustainable process, which includes the tools, materiality, and the fact that it has to be about the product itself and the experience of the product. It has to be connected together. I think that was really important for us. So that's how we wanted to describe it. If I go to the next slide, you kind of sort of see a different way that we broke these things out. This is not meant to be a one-off conference. The idea was to have a starting point, being 2020, all the way to the point in the hopefully not too distant future where a conference on sustainability is irrelevant and outdated because everybody's doing it. And we're certainly not there yet. And so we want to continue this process as much as we can. So with that in mind, we had a tremendous collection of speakers for 3 days that was tremendously powerful. And I'll just point to a couple here that you can see on your screen today. Juliana from Mormendi showed a super powerful slide that talks about today's theme of product experience. That was the third day. You know, greater reach begets bigger responsibility, and a product experience, you know, kind of evolves from organization, society, government, and ultimately to the planet. Andrew Dent from Material Connection talked about how circularity does not equal sustainability. CleanR was talking about connecting circular design to the entire product development process, something that I certainly accept. And I think that this was examples of tremendous amount of great content over the full 3 days. And in fact, the way that we did this conference virtually, we recorded all the sessions. And if we go to the next slide, you can see very clearly how all the information is there for you. If you go to the website that you can see on your screen today, you can actually listen to the entire 3-day conference. It's completely free for you. If you prefer to scan a QR code, you can do that on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You just have to move away the presenter view if that's hiding the QR code. But by all means, take that into consideration and make sure you kind of invest some time if you can. All this could not be illustrated without an actual challenge. So from the very beginning, one of the things that I wanted to do is really mirror the 3 themes that the conference was really focusing in on by illustrating it through a very specific design challenge. And I had done the same thing with my previous 2 conferences that I emceed and curated. And so it was just a no-brainer to reach out to the community. And top of that list was Terry Swack. And I've been bothering her a couple times this past year. And I think it made total sense to her when I kind of pitched her the idea that I wanted to do this challenge, because I had worked with the folks at GradCAD in the past. So we had a platform to do this, and illustrating the conference with a real challenge like this is the best way to make the point that we're trying to make. So I'm going to turn this over to Shruti to give you a little bit more details as to how we made this happen with her help as lead juror and project manager for this. Thank you very much.
Right. And before Shruti gets going, I just want to let people know that this webinar is being recorded, and tomorrow you'll get an email with a link to the recording. And if you want to request this deck, you can request that and we'll send this out to you as well. So don't worry about taking notes. You can have access to all the content you're seeing today. Shruti.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Stefan. So we definitely heard a lot about the competition, and it's been an exciting and a very challenging journey for creating this competition and then spreading it and hosting it. So I'll just take you through the little brief of what we wanted to do. So Sustainable Minds and IDSA, we got together and we wanted to create a design challenge for the designers to have to disrupt the design process and to get the designers to think differently, as in how can the design process bring in an aspect for environmental performance. And for this, we selected one of the very common used appliances, which is a toaster, a kitchen appliance. And we took that and created a benchmark, which had to be redesigned for a better and high environmental performance. So the way we designed the whole challenge was that since we didn't talk about any particular brand, so we wanted to create a full story around the brand. So we asked our designers to create a brand story, to go through the process of creating user personas, scenario, given the environments in which the product is being used, how could they create something which is better for the environment, and yet it meets all the human-centered methodology requirements, which is good for the user, it is desirable, it is feasible, and it is viable. And certain standards which we kept here was to get a 15% better environmental performance from the reference toaster. So the idea was to create a reference toaster model in the Sustainable Mind software. So understand where the product was consuming maximum energy and design a new product to combat all that. So that's the process which we had suggested, which is first it was, of course, defining the problem, talking about what is, once you create a reference model on the software, you can identify where are the areas which are consuming maximum energy. Defining the user group. Also, you cite down certain usability problems which the user is facing and marry them both and come up with a new design. So the design approach here was focused on eco-design strategies. So we had suggested an eco-design strategy wheel, which was there as part of the presentation deck. So we wanted our users to see, our designers to go through the eco-design strategies and see where all they could plug in which strategies over the entire product design lifecycle. So something which could be used in manufacturing or while in use or end of life. So packing it all together, we wanted our designers to create a fantastic story in form of a good presentation. And we had some very exciting entries from our 52 entries. Sorry, my client, yeah. So we got 52 entries, and we had to filter these entries over. So we got our entire jury panel together, and the jury panel was, it's people who are experienced in, have a very fantastic, excellent knowledge about materials, about sustainability and product design. So I'll just introduce them in the next slide. And so we got them together over 3 Zoom sessions. We selected first 25 entries, out of which we filtered it down to 10 finalists. And then we chose our final 3 winners. The criteria which we used to select our finalists were, so effective use of eco-design strategies, like how the designer has used these strategies to create a new solution. The comprehensive LCA model. So we had given a very clear instructions on in the briefing, as in how to create the model on the Sustainable Mind software. So if the benchmark or the reference model is not right, so then the results are not going to be right. So that's why we had given a very clear instruction on how to create this model. So accuracy of that model, and then of course the aesthetics and how the story was weaved, how was it connected back to the users, and the functionality and the usability of the toaster. So I just asked Manuela to jump in here.
Thank you, Shruti. So as Shruti mentioned, we did get a lot of entries. It was a very difficult process to judge, just because there were so many creative ideas and so many innovative project ideas. So because this was a factor, it was very difficult to choose. We created a point system that would check for the accuracy of the model and how well the candidates were able to follow the competition guidelines and the criteria. So as you can see, the points are broken down into different sections. We awarded points for making sure that all the relevant inputs were there for the reference toaster as well as the new toaster. So that means all of the inputs during the use phase, transportation phase, end of life phase. So making sure that all the data that needed to be there was there. We also awarded points for getting the right functional unit for the reference toaster. as well as the reference millipoint score for the reference toaster. And this could be achieved if the competitor did all the correct inputs and followed all the right guidelines and instructions for the reference toaster. Finally, we also awarded points for percent improvement of the product and how close the scoring was to the reference toaster. So that's how we kind of
Great.
distributed that process. Yes.
So I'm sorry, just I think my cursor keeps jumping. So
Well, without
So
further
our
ado,
jurors-
let's get to the winners.
yeah. Terry, could you advance the slides, please?
Yes, go ahead.
So our winners, so because we got such exciting entries and we had some very, very good ideas. So I think what we did was I just came up with this suggestion that let's have some special mentions as well before we talk about the winners, because there's certain ideas which are very, very distinct and disruptive. So this is the first one, which was by Joe Bloomfield. He called it an Ember. Yeah, Ember is the name of the concept, which is eliminating the entire toaster as it is. So it's a cast iron design which sits on the stove top. So this is a very exciting example of design thinking, which is looking at the problem in a very different way. The another special mention was for Sarah and Eric. So this is a multi-purpose thought which we had given a special mention for. So in which the packaging itself would become the product. Kevin was another special mention who had created the whole model with accurately, which is on sustainable minds. And Anunai was a very cute and a very nice product which they had created, and the entire brand experience was very exciting here, because why should one have a toast alone? You should have it with an egg, and creating the whole ecosystem around it, which is a very nice idea. We can move to our winners, and so Doug and Shane was our second runners up. We would, I think, Shane, you can take it up from here.
Okay, thank you, Shirley. Hi, everyone. I'm Doug. Shane and I are the team toaster. And we both came from Taiwan, and our Chinese name all has the word Shen. So we named our team Shen Square Studio. And both of us are industrial designers, but we have different background and knowledge. Shen graduated from Pratt 2019. He is now located in New Jersey. He works in a medical design firm, and he also has years of experiences in consumer electronics design. He is fantastic in sketching and design skills. His professional view and great taste of the fine art brought our project into higher standard. But I'm not a typical industrial designer. Before I came to the States, I worked as a display engineer and a smart device product manager. I graduated from RIT 2019, and now I'm located in New York. I'm familiar with technologies, multifunction coordination, and good at asking questions from different perspectives. We found the challenge on the GrabCAD website, and the topic is interesting because we all use toasters in our daily life, but we haven't really think about modifying it. The Eco-design challenge goal is also attractive to us. We'd like to know what we can come up in the end with the software towards sustainable minds. Our final concept is Thin Toaster, and you will know why we name it after this presentation.
So to start with, We launched an user study and gathered some feedback regarding how people think about using their toaster. Jennifer is our representative of the young professionals. This type of people usually have a very hefty morning and breakfast time. She doesn't like to wait, and she's not very happy with the heat efficiency of her toaster. On the other hand, Perry says that what annoys him the most is how often the toast gets stuck in the device and he has to take the toast at the risk of getting burned. Last but not least, Monica speaks for those who really look at the user interface of the device. She thinks some of the toasters have too many modes and too many functions that make her confused. We also benchmark current toaster design to see if there is any possibility that we can minimize the material usage and number of parts. As the picture shows, most of the toasters use 3 heating plates to sandwich the toast. These heating plates generate a lot of heat around them that requires some extra insulated structure to protect components from getting damaged. And there are components like spring and sliders in order to make the toast jump. All this leads to a bulky toaster body and rather complicated assembly. So we start to think if we can remove some of these parts to make a design which is compact and simple. After gathering enough information from the users and the mechanical drawings, we kick off the brainstorm with 5 goals in mind. First, avoid direct contact with the toaster for better user safety. Second, allow the user to check the toast easily during the roasting process. Third, find a way to increase heating efficiency. Fourth, simplify the assembly and user interface. And 5, follow the principle of less is better. We believe this principle not only brings us a good sense of aesthetics, but especially benefits our design from a sustainable perspective. We came up with some preliminary ideas. We realized that the sun roast toaster, or so-called solar power toaster, is a very popular one. We saw that the idea in many other submissions. It is very fun. Besides, we have concepts like a clip toaster, a roller toaster, and a tunnel toaster. At first, we think the tunnel-shaped toaster is the direction to go because we see the possibility to trap more heat inside the toaster and eliminate the heat efficiency. However, after we made a tunnel toaster model and calculate with sustainable minds, the improvement is not that significant because the complication of the structure. So we move on. In this page, the sketches show how the final concept is formed. We keep the idea of the side opening from our tunnel toaster concept, but we came up with the idea of having 2 baskets to carry the toast. As you can see on the top left, we thought about how we can put a knob on the device. However, we found that no matter what we do, it will create unnecessary empty space in the device and increase the overall footprint. We really want to avoid that, so in the end, we decided to make the knob a standalone part.
So here is our final concept, thin toaster, which we modeled it in Blender and rendered in T-Shot. Its body is only half size of traditional toasters. It including a dark gray plastic enclosure, aluminum front and back caps, 2 stainless steel toast baskets, and a standalone timer connected with the main body. Thin toaster is simple. It has only 1 button on the timer to control on and off. So you don't need to worry about switching modes back and forth as traditional toasters. You only need to set up the timer and use the removable basket to check the status of toaster. The name of thin toaster is the sound from the timer. While you hear the sound, ding means the toast is ready. Most of toasters use radiation to heat up the toast, and some of them use conduction with heavy metal plates. In thin toaster, we propose a way to combine conduction, radiation, and convection together to reduce energy waste. We all know that hot air goes up, so thin toaster move the opening to the side to trap more heat. Also, we replaced 3 heating units with only 1 center unit and 2 metal shields on the side. Metal shields will be heated up quickly by heating units, and then the shields will toast the toast inside the basket more evenly. With the help of sustainable minds, we modified our body shapes and curves several times to get a better results. Also modify the way we assemble the parts. As the image shows, thin toaster has simple shape and symmetric parts. We also apply slot connections to simplify the assembly. The metal parts could be made by simple bending and stepping process, and plastic parts were made by injection.
So here is the conclusion pages show how our final concept performs compared to the sample toaster and other 2 ideas that we came along during the process. We are pretty happy with the result, especially when we figure the approach that we turned out to take. In order to improve the environmental performance, what we did is not replacing the materials with the more sustainable ones. Instead, we used the materials applied on any other toaster. But we simplify the mechanism and optimize the part design. It guides us a toaster that not only lighter, but also smaller. And the sustainability improvement lies in the materials that we managed to remove. It brings up the key learning that we got from the project. We think in some ways it proves that with enough understanding of the mechanism, manufacturing, and assembly, even without changing materials, it is still possible to design a more sustainable product. This is the end of our presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Shane and Doug. So we'll move to Jeswin, who was the first runner-up for the challenge.
Yes, thank you, Shruti. A very good morning. I'll introduce myself. I am Jeswin P. George. I work as an industrial designer for a company called Studio ABD in India. I've been focusing on research and development for consumer goods over 2 years. And we are also doing sustainable product system within our organization along with the business model. And this is something which I always look forward, and sustainable product life cycle is something which is always there in my interest. And I also happen to have a theme birthday of June 5th, which is Environmental Day. Yeah. Talking about the project, my design direction, what I'm selected for the entire project is better user experience along with sustainable product life cycle. And the target user which I've selected for the project is Indian consumer, and this is something which will be seen throughout the project. And in initial stages of the project, I started looking at what exactly is the product and how does it function, and also the technologies and the manufacturing connected to it. And this is something which is extremely important to understand the product in the initial stage, and also to identify the benchmark for the software. Along with understanding the product, I also look into the user experience, about how the user pattern looks like, what are the major difficulties they are facing, and how can we improve our designs further. A couple of the insights were about how cleanliness of internal components really matters, especially in this post-pandemic age. And another important thing was, for a simple process or simple function, more than one single appliance is working in every kitchen. And why can't we create a single appliance which can do the same. That is also one of the major insight and something which I always wanted to do. And this is what my final product is also going to look like. And in many cases, a small malfunctioning of an internal component will really make the user to replace the entire appliances, which often leads to a lot of electronic waste at the end of the day. So after understanding the issues and insights, I've gone through a lot of ideation, brainstorming, and understanding how can we do the toasting machine more interestingly by ensuring all the parameters of sustainable product life cycle. That's how we came up with concept number 1. It is called Toastwin. Toastwin is a multi-purpose toasting machine with an integrated mini oven setup. So if you turn the product around in anti-clockwise, you can make it as a mini oven, as you can see on the right side. And in the normal phase, which is step number 1, that's how the toaster setup is going to look like. It was packed with features, like it had a really great compartment of bread on the top, where it can hold more than 10 slices at a time, which will ensure a longer refill time, and which was also connected to smartphone as well as a touch screen, so that the user can send a command remotely as well as through the send touch screen which is there physically. This also ensures efficiency of usage as well as eradicates the wastage of bread. So whenever there's a command or whatever it is, even if it's a single bread, only a single bread will be toasted. And it also comes with a mini oven setup. So for the cold countries, this is something quite handy. So they can quickly warm up their food products. With all the integrated features above, we were also really trying to ensure that it has the extremely less multiple touch points. This is to make sure that the product is all set and ready for post-pandemic age. And this particular product or concept is extremely fit for hotel environment where more than 4 users can use it at the same time with the capacity connected. I was quite confident about this product, and it was quite cool about how multifunctional it is. But when I uploaded the file to the software, I was shocked to see the result. It was showing extremely low on ecological parameters, which is something which I was also getting because of the different parameters. So the initial stage when I started using the software, I came across a lot more parameters which I never actually thought during the initial stages for my ideation. And this really has opened my eyes, especially on how important each parameters are. I went back to the storyboard and started ideating. This time I understood that it is not about how cool or how complex your product looks. It is on how each system is designed. We started with predefining the entire Ecodesign product strategy. It has 3 different sections. One is manufacturing, another one is use, as well as end of cycle. So this slide is what my definition of final concept is, and this is a system design for that. Saying that my product will be manufactured locally. It reduces the footprints via transport. All the branding and labeling will be done within the mall so that it ensures the proper recycling. We are also looking at CMF of recycled plastic, something similar to Nike shoes, so that we can reduce the number of processes and ultimately the energy saved on that. Talking about the quality of components, we also make sure that we are really high on that so that we can reduce the energy spent to manufacture the spare parts. Talking about the use, so the toaster, our toaster, the final design will be multifunctional, which reduces the number of appliances and the energy used while the usage and manufacturing of the same. We were also looking at different rendering programs where the user can rendered for a couple of months as well as for a couple of years, depends. Another innovative idea what we've did in this concept was making the internal components modular. So everything is connected to your smartphone. If anything goes wrong, you'll get a notification in your phone, and all you have to do is you have to buy it online, and you can fix it directly. This modular internal components actually open another opportunity where you can actually upgrade your toaster without replacing it. You can buy the modular with a higher quality and number. You can upgrade within the system, so you don't have to buy a new toaster all the time. Talking about the end of cycle, there will be rewards given for the users where and the users give it back for recycling or to buy. And the entire product is divided into different segments depending upon the physical properties of each component, which will ensure that there's a proper dismantling while recycling. Talking about the packaging also, we have done primary packaging on cardboard boxes without ink printers, so we can ensure a proper recycling with the packaging also. And talking about the secondary one, this will be done on hard cases from factory to outlet. Once it reaches the factory, once it reaches the outlet, the cardboard will, the secondary packaging will go back for the same use, so that you can actually reuse the same packaging. And that's how I came up with my final concept. It is called Warmth. It is a multi-purpose toasting machine with a toasting as well as butter heating compartment, and has a really innovative heating module and a smartphone connected to it. The entire design is actually to enhance the better user experience as well as for the sustainable product life cycle. We have changed the entire layout of heating and toasting of the bread. So now once it is heated, bread is heated, it will be delivered onto the front. We have also done innovative heating module where it will be connected with more than 20 modules, and you can customize it accordingly. With all the features above and along with the system design, I've uploaded the data to the software and got a value of 86% improvement in comparison to the the reference model which I have already uploaded. And this has been absolutely happened because how defined I made the entire system design as well as the product. So what I've learned from the software is very simple, that you really have to define the entire product as well as system. It is not about how you can replace the raw material as recycled material. We have to really define each and every parameter which can ultimately help eco-friendly product as well as a better user experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Jaswin. This is amazing. Can we now move on to our winner, who's Mary? Mary, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Friedel. I'm an associate industrial designer at Mamitome. I recently just got this position, so I've been here about a month now, and I graduated from the University of Cincinnati last May. So sort of because of COVID, I had a gap in between working and getting my first full-time job. So I was scrolling through LinkedIn around the time when this toaster competition was coming out and came across it and decided that it would be a good competition for me to take part in as I was trying to continue to develop my skills after graduating and then prepare myself for my first full-time job. So this was a really good competition and accomplished that goal for me. I'm not sure if winning this competition helped me get the job at all, but it definitely helped me improve my skills and think about sustainability as a design process. So moving forward, I started the process similar to how I start any design problem, or by initiating or establishing who the users for a product would be. So that sort of helps identify the market space that this product would fit. And so the users that I identified for a toaster that's sustainable are sort of on a scale of how sustainable the person tries to live their life. So on the far left side here, we have Bill, who doesn't really believe in climate change or would buy a sustainable product because it's sustainable, but he's interested in products because they look cool or suit his needs in that way. And then sort of in the middle range here is someone like Wesley, who tries to be sustainable, but doesn't want to go too far out of her way to do so. So she will recycle more, but doesn't really do anything outside of that, even though she knows she could be doing more, just mostly because she doesn't want to adapt her lifestyle too much. So something that would resonate with her might be a sustainable toaster, where if she was looking to buy a toaster, she would choose a sustainable option because it's not too hard for her to make that change. And then lastly, on the other hand, is someone like Alex, who is super sustainable and knows the importance of sustainability and eco-design, and he would do anything to sort of adapt that lifestyle. He's probably vegan and low waste type of person. So when I was looking at which of these people I was going to cater my designs toward, I ended up deciding that I should cater toward someone like Bill, who doesn't really wouldn't really choose a sustainable option just because it's sustainable. So my idea was that I would design a toaster around having it have a cool factor, but also incorporate the sustainable and eco-design strategies. That way that the widest range of users would hopefully buy into this product. So the idea is to design the most sustainable option, but make it the best looking and most intuitive so that it's irresistible to any user. So as part of my process, I tend to look for inspirational images or forms. So these are sort of concepts that I chose that speak to me in a way that I see these as being irresistible products. So some of the features are rounded edges or simple part breaks and stuff along those lines. With those inspirational images in mind, I took to sketching. So I developed ideas around ways that I could either decrease the material use or possibly come up with a different energy source. On the right hand here, we have one of my concepts was if there was some kind of device that you could connect to your kitchen sink that would gather energy as your water runs. So your water is obviously going to run throughout the week, so why not be able to turn that into some kind of energy source or something along those lines. And then I also had different ideas around how I could make the product look irresistible. So whether it's a retro style toaster or if it has a glass window so you can see how toasty your bread is getting. And that also would help reduce energy use because if you might not burn your toast as much and have to reuse a piece of bread or use energy to toast a piece of bread again. So after sketching, I sort of took these options and used the life cycle analysis idea to decide which concepts I would move forward with. And one of the things that I realized is that as a designer, you can't necessarily control how a user is going to act. So if I'm designing for someone like Bill, who is probably not going to take his toaster to get a part replaced if it's broken, he's going to just throw away his toaster. So I was trying to not incorporate as many things towards the end of life or that the user would have to take the initiative to do. I was focusing more on the innovative aspects of the toaster that I could accomplish as a designer. So such as efficient energy use and low impact materials and making it lighter so it has more efficient distribution and things along those lines. So my first concept is the compact toaster. And this design was meant to simply eliminate excess material in the design of a regular toaster. So if I looked at some normal toasters and it seems like there's a lot of excess space around it. So I was simply trying to minimize that. And that would have low impact use because there's also one middle heating grill in the middle versus the two that an original toaster would have. And then I did design it so at the end of life, it can be taken apart and recycled, although I didn't incorporate that into the software because a user might not necessarily do that. And my second concept was sort of opposite aesthetically from the first concept because it is much larger in size, but it has sort of a retro feel to it and a very intuitive use. So some of the materials that I changed for this was I utilized ceramics, which is less toxic and better insulated than steel. And then I used the similar heating concept as the first concept where it shares that center heating piece. And then it has an optimized lifetime. And because it has the ceramic and is larger and sturdy, it's built to last. And then lastly, my final concept is this contemporary glass toaster. So this was the concept where it's meant to see how toasted your bread is getting while it's in the toaster. And then you can also see that it is utilizing energy more efficiently because it is only heating up the side of the toaster in which the bread is in. So it has a little sensor, and if it doesn't detect bread there, then it will shut off the side of the toaster where there's not bread so that it doesn't use energy unnecessarily. And then this concept also utilizes ceramics and can be recycled at the end of life because it has glass part that can be taken out. So after creating those concepts, I used the Sustainable Minds software to evaluate them. And all of the designs had an improvement, but I ended up going with the ceramic glass toaster because it looked the most modern to me and looked like something that a user like Bill would want to buy because it has that cool factor that it would look good sitting on a kitchen counter. So this is the final concept where it has the see-through glass window and it's more energy efficient than standard toasters, has non-toxic materials, and then it also has that added benefit of a modern aesthetic. So what I learned from this competition is that there's really no such thing as a green product, only greener products. So if we can incorporate sustainable tools into our everyday designs, we can make small improvements along the way. And something like a toaster is something where it's sort of easier to incorporate eco-design strategies because you can design a cool thing that a user is going to want to buy, but then it also has the ability to have those sustainable concepts designed into it. So overall, there was a 44% environmental performance improvement in this toaster design, and it has that cool factor where an average Joe would hopefully want to buy it. So I think one of the things that needs to be said is that sustainability should hopefully become more mainstream, so that way people who are the everyday user would like to buy into sustainability. So let's make sustainability mainstream. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. Our winners, Trudy, Stefan, for having the vision to make this happen and for inviting me to participate in Sustainable Minds. I don't know about all of you who are on the webinar today, but I'm just going to say again that I was amazed by the results, not just of the ones that we determined to be winners of the competition, but that there were so many submissions and so much creativity, which simply goes to show, you know, if you give people knowledge and tools, even in just a little bit of time, they can design the most amazing solutions. So now if you think about taking that very same process, which is freely available to everyone, and bringing that into design firms, both design consultancies and manufacturing organizations, how much change, credible, real change, meaningful change could happen. And these folks you just heard from today are really the next generation or the generation that's going to make that happen. So we're at the top of our time. You know, once again, you will get a link to the recording. You can request the deck. You can go to the Eco Design Challenge page on GrabCAD that was in the webinar invitation, and you can download the PowerPoint template that the contestants used for their presentation. You can follow the instructions. You know, everything is freely available. You can also go to the Sustainable Minds website, sign up for a trial account. You can purchase their subscriptions, which are very reasonably priced for education as well as industry. And we're happy to provide training, support, do projects with you. So I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to spend an hour with us. I know it was kind of jam-packed with content, but thank you to all, and we look forward to seeing greener products in the marketplace. Everyone,
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
all right, bye-bye.